Hello and welcome everyone to the world famous Adventurers Club of Los Angeles. My name is Andrew Medina. I am member number 1212, and I'm so glad to be your host for the evening. We got another great program coming at you tonight. I'm joined by the one and only Briana DeSanctis to talk about her adventures being the first woman to solo through hike the American Discovery Trail. Wow. So without further ado, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me here. Also, thank you to Phoebe, thank you to Casey, thank you to everybody that came out tonight, and thank you to everybody that's watching from back home. It means so much to me. I can't even tell you right now. It's so great. I'm so honored to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you to all of our support staff. Without them, we cannot make this show run every single week. So, Briana, you've been
United States, you kind of adapt to wherever you are. Mm-hmm. And I've definitely done that. I've met people from all walks of life that have different views, different backgrounds, and all the like. And everybody has been so fantastic. And it's just like, it's been really great so far. But I enjoy just as much being on a remote single track trail as I do walking through town and meeting all the diverse people that I meet.
Sure. And you're from Maine originally?
Correct. I'm originally from Maine.
All right.
Born and raised. Shout out to Maine.
Shout out Maine. All right. And what is like the most, you talked about adapting. What's like the biggest sort of culture shock you've had to deal with coming from Maine?
I've been a traveler my whole life. So I've been to a lot of different places. So I'm not necessarily someone that lived their whole life in Maine and then decided I was going to walk across America.
Sure.
I hiked the Appalachian Trail 8 years ago from Georgia to Maine in 2015, and it was the best time of my life.
That was right after college, right?
Sorry?
That was right after college, right?
It was quite a few years. I'm 40 now, so I graduated college in 2003.
I don't know that I believe that you're 40.
It was so, I don't even remember. It was so long ago, This is so minuscule now. I've done so much since then. I'm 40 now. Like, this is my new life. That was my old life.
You keep saying that. I keep not believing you, but all right. But so you hiked your Appalachian Trail, you said, is your first love. So talk about falling in love with that trail.
What happened was, when I was younger, ever since I was a little girl, I had always been very outdoorsy. We lived in the country growing up, and we would build forts in the woods, and we had a tree house at my mom's house, and my brother and I would sleep out in there at night, and we had 2 cots in there. And I always remember thinking, I want to live out in a cabin. I want to be roughing it. I want to do all this crazy stuff. And as I got older, and I got my license, and I started driving around, I started going camping at these different places. Anywhere I could find on the map, I would use the Maine Gazetteer, which is a big paper map. And I don't know if anybody uses those anymore, but I would use the Maine Gazetteer and find all the places I could car camp. And pretty much, after a while, I started to exhaust all those places. Mm-hmm. And I started looking at these new spots where I could go, but I needed to hike into them. Oh, okay. So I started buying backpacking gear, and then I started hiking sections of the Appalachian Trail, and I started meeting other hikers on the Appalachian Trail, and I had some nerdy gear. I was carrying a sterno stove, which takes like 45 minutes to get, anything boiling, and I was just carrying this rudimentary gear. I had no idea what to do, and I learned from the Appalachian Trail through hikers what I should be carrying. I did some research, and I started section hiking parts of the Appalachian Trail in Maine on my days off. Oh, okay. And I remember one day, it was August 29th, 2014, and I hiked to the end of my 33-mile section was to the height of the land in Aquasic, Maine. It's a beautiful roadside stop. It looks over all these beautiful lakes and mountains. And I looked across the road and I saw that next white blaze of the Appalachian Trail, and I said, you know what, this is dumb. I should hike the whole thing. So I went back to work on Monday. I told my boss, you have 6 months to find a new manager. I'm leaving to hike the Appalachian Trail. And she said, okay. Sure.
See you in a couple weeks.
So after a few weeks and I was getting my paychecks, I would buy, doing tons of research, reading a ton of books. And I would buy pieces of gear and have them sent to my restaurant. And my boss, she came up to me one day and she said, you know, I got this box for you. And she's shaking it. She's like, it feels like there's nothing in there. Oh, that's my tent, I said. She's like, oh. And I said, yeah, you know, to hike the Appalachian Trail. So she started to believe me. And then I left and I hiked the Appalachian Trail in 2015 from Georgia to Maine. After that, I just kept trying to find. The Appalachian Trail was great for me. It was such a great time. I met so many great people. I saw so many great things. The mentality on the trail is great. You have this great fellowship of other hikers. And the thing for me was, after I completed that, I wanted more. I wanted something more challenging.
Sure.
I wanted something more solitary, something longer, something where I could make a difference, something that I could do this hike, but also do something that mattered to me. And so I found the American Discovery Trail one day online, looking at long trails across the United States. And I found the trail and I started to do research, and I was like, this looks like it's going to be really awful a lot. There's a lot of road walking, a lot of hard things, a lot of mountain ranges, a lot of remote areas. And I said, you know what, I'm going to do this. I think this is my trail. So I got a hold of the American Discovery Trail Society, and I did a bunch of research, and I asked them if there was some kind of a record that I could set, maybe, by hiking this trail, because I'm not a bougie hiker, but this trail is so long, and there's such a struggle bus on this trail. I could already tell. This trail has hardly been hiked by very many people. It's a relatively new trail.
Really? Okay.
Only a few decades old.
Huh.
And I knew that by doing this, there's going to be something some record I could set.
Sure.
So I found out that, yes, if I hiked the whole thing, I would be the first woman to accomplish that. And I said, you know what? I can do this, no problem. I know I can do this. Like, there's no problem. Unless I get injured and have to quit, I'm going to do this. So I started. Thanks.
And you started. And how long? And here you are. And how long is the American Discovery Trail from get to go?
The American Discovery Trail eastern terminus begins in Cape Henlopen, Delaware,
Okay.
on the east coast, the Atlantic Ocean. And the western terminus is at Point Reyes National Seashore,
Okay.
out here in California, outside of San Francisco.
So you're doing like diagonal.
So, well, the American Discovery Trail itself, it's not one straight line across the United States.
Right.
It runs from Cape Henlopen, Delaware, to Ohio. And then about western Ohio, Indiana border, it splits. And it almost looks like an eyeball. And there's a northern route and a southern route. And they reconnect back in Littleton, Colorado, right outside of Denver.
Okay.
So when I first started, I was like, well, maybe I'll just do the southern route. And then quickly after that, I was like, you know what? I'm going to hike the whole thing. Why would I not hike the whole thing? When I hiked the Appalachian Trail, I was what they call a purist thru-hiker. So
Okay.
I didn't skip any miles. I never slack packed, which means like hiking without your backpack, have someone take your backpack and you walk. Like, I hiked purist. I hiked every mile. I didn't stop. I didn't do the river, or what do they call it? They do, like, some people do, like, they'll get on the river, on the Shenandoah River, and they'll
okay.
like, raft some of it.
Sure. Like a portage
I was like,
down.
you know what? No, like, I don't want to do that. I want to hike the entire trail. I started at Amicalola Falls. I hiked from Amicalola Falls to Springer. I did not start at Springer. I caught a lot of flack from that from some guys that I had met on day one. They said, in my trail name, Rocky Mountain High, they were like, hey, Rocky, how much of the Appalachian Trail is on the approach trail? And I was like, you know what? I don't care, because at the end of the day, when I run out of miles, I want to know that I did those miles, because I'll miss those miles when it's over. And I'm so glad I did, you know? And I tried to get everybody at the hostel that night. I said, hey, we guys, anybody else want to hike the approach trail? Because they were trying to figure out like where to shuttle everyone. Who's starting at Springer? Who's starting at Amicalola? I'm like, Amicalola. And I'm like, who's with me? Who's with me?
Crickets.
Crickets. Really? Really? And, well, how much that's on the Appalachian Trail? None of it. Whatever. But I did it anyway, and I will never do it again. It was great, though. Anyway, yeah. So I hiked the Appalachian Trail, and I wanted to hike another trail after that. And I found the American Discovery Trail, and I found out that I could be the first woman to hike the entire thing. And I said, absolutely, hell yeah, I will take this on and do this, because I know I can do it. And thank you. And not only did I want to hike this trail, but I know that there's so many people out there that want to hike other trails and want to like get into backpacking and stuff like that.
Sure.
And they don't have a direction, they don't know anywhere to turn or whatever. And I said, you know what, this is such a long trail. Why don't I hike this trail so I can start inspiring other people, empowering young women. I can use this as a tool to educate others how they can not just walk across America, because I know not everybody wants to do this, but just to take the first step in doing something that you love and maybe just expanding your comfort zone and getting into something new. And I said, you know what, this is what I'm doing. And I saved money.
Love it.
And I was thinking about it for a long time. And one day my cousin called me up and she said, hey, she's like, you know what you really should do? And I said, what? And she goes, I'm a writer. And she said, you should write a book about the Appalachian Trail. And I said, you know how many books have been written about the Appalachian Trail? 8 million. Like, what's mine? What's my little pirate story compared to everybody else's? And I said, you know what I really want to do? I want to walk across America and write a book about that. And she said, you know what, you should really do it. And she pushed me in any way you can think about to do this. And finally, between the two of us, I was ready to hike. So thank you to my cousin for giving me that final push.
She here tonight?
Here tonight.
Hey, all right. Thank you, cousin.
And I began hiking.
And it's been 2 years since then. How many miles has it been? Because you're not quite done yet, are you?
No, I'm almost finished.
Almost. So you have.
So sad.
6,600.
I've hiked 6,600 miles to
out
get
of
here.
how many?
Out of 6,800 miles.
So what you're saying is that you have put your adventure on hold to come speak with us tonight.
Absolutely.
And that we here in this room
100%.
are a part of history.
You are. You're all a part of my journey. I'm not done yet. A lot of the people in this audience have been following me for a while. So, and I want to thank everybody for that too. Big round of applause to you guys, for everybody everyone. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm not finished yet. I still have 200 miles to go. I am south of Sacramento right now in wine country, which is amazing. The wine is great. And they have orange groves, like all these orchards. I've been picking fruit from trees, only if they hang over the fence.
Of course.
I'm not encroaching on private, I know all about private property, trust me.
Yeah.
I probably slept in your backyard and you didn't know it. But I only pick the fruit that's hanging over the fence.
Of course. And it tastes better anyway that way.
Oh, yes, it's fresh. It's so good, yeah.
Oh, sure. So, what, I guess, there's so much to sort of tackle there. So I guess I want to start with Rocky Mountain High is your trail name.
Yes, sir.
Right? And so first of all, what is a trail name? How do you get one? And how did you get yours?
Let's look at it like this.
Okay.
Envision yourself hiking the Appalachian Trail. This is a trail with 75% men hiking this trail, all of which become emaciated looking with very large beards, smelling relatively the same of rotten onions and ripped t-shirts and all the like. And their names are probably John, Ben, Tom, Joseph, whatever.
Rich, yeah.
How do you identify somebody like that? Oh, that guy that I met the other day. He's real skinny. He's got this big, long beard, carrying a big backpack, smells terrible. Mm-hmm. So we have trail names, and it's to identify people. I met these two guys. We were all at this church on the Appalachian Trail, and they were hiking together on the trail, and they were friends maybe from high school or whatever, but their trail names collectively were Shits and Giggles. We were at this Baptist church in Tennessee, and all the ladies were coming around praying for us and asking what our trail names were. And I just kind of threw them a side glance, was like, good luck with that. So my trail name is Rocky Mountain High. My cousin Cody was hiking the Appalachian Trail in 2000, I believe it was 2011, so 4 years before I did. And he was on trail, and my aunt, it's not uncommon for people to know people in Maine that hike the Appalachian Trail.
Sure.
A lot of people in Maine are hikers, and but so my cousin was through hiking the Appalachian Trail, and my aunt wanted to do something for him, send him out photos and stuff, and they sent out this photo album, and they were like, we want to take pictures of all the family, and you're going to create your own trail name and make a little photo and make it kind of correlate to your trail name. Well, I was living in Colorado at the time, and my mom was like, Briana, you should do this, and I think your trail name should be Rocky Mountain High. And so I was like, perfect, So I was like, go with Rocky Mountain High. So I already had a trail name. So when I got on the Appalachian Trail, I was like, better safe than sorry. Better stick with Rocky Mountain High. I mean, because then you don't want to be Shits and Giggles or, anyone else, right? So, I mean, there were some really raunchy ones, but you can either name yourself or you can be named by someone on trail. Mm-hmm. Usually, a lot of people get named by where they're from.
Right.
Someone's
okay.
name will be, oh, Cincinnati, oh, that guy. Or like, I had a guy, one of my friends, Big Easy. We had Danger Ranger. We had Ha-Ha, she was a comedian.
Okay.
All kinds of different names,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. If, by the way, Big Easy, someone here is from New Orleans. Yeah.
So Big Easy, you could have like names like Glampy, like someone that doesn't like to camp but prefers the fineries of life and wants to stay in a hotel all the time. You could have Glampy, or you could have Little Kim, any whatever, any trail names. It could be anything. Really.
Anything's good. Anything goes.
Anything and everything.
Are you Big Easy?
I will be.
Hey. Do you have to kill the old Big Easy, or like do you?
No. You could be Little Easy. It could be your rap name.
Lil Easy. I like that.
Lil Easy.
All right. So, what if you could go back in time and talk to yourself as you were just doing the Appalachian Trail? What would you tell yourself now?
I would say, girl, you're in for a whole lot of suffering. No, it was, I don't know what I would say to myself. I honestly don't know, but, I would probably say, you know what? You really don't know how badass you are. You don't know how much perseverance you have in yourself. You don't quite understand how much you're going to push yourself in the future. You don't know how this little trail, I mean, I'm not saying that the Appalachian Trail is little, but compared to this one kind of is, but you have no idea what you're going to do. I had no clue. I had no idea I was going to do this.
If you could take us back to where your head was at then, where did you think this was going to go?
When I started this trail?
Yeah, when you started this trail.
Oh, I just thought I'd be, walking along and for a really long time, like struggling a lot, walking through lots of boring stretches of land, and then seeing a lot of mountain ranges. And when I hiked through those, seeing a lot of struggle there, altitude sickness, your occasional hangover maybe, you never know what's going to happen out there. But a lot of these things were True. I mean, I struggled a lot on this trail. You're hot, you're cold, you're in pain, you're hungry, you're thirsty, you can't find good water. You have, I don't know what they say in English, chinchies. What is it? Chiggers, thank you. You have chiggers, you have, maybe you went to a seedy motel room, you have bed bugs now, you have to deal with that. Never in my gear, but just only on my skin, thank goodness. There's a lot of stuff out there.
Sure.
So there's so much to deal with. Ticks are the worst, really. I deal with ticks a lot on trail. I sprayed all my gear with chemicals. I don't always love to use chemicals for everything, but when it comes to ticks, I don't mess around. So I don't want to get Lyme disease.
Yeah, because Lyme disease doesn't mess around either.
I used preventative measures for sure with that, and that was like prevalent in a lot of the trail on the East Coast. And even now, when I got to Auburn, from Auburn through Sacramento, there are a lot of wilderness areas, and I saw some signs put up on the American River Trail saying, "Watch out for ticks." It's like, again, like, really?
All right, break out the spray.
Yeah, here we go.
So how does your gear, so you have to have everything on you. So like, how does your gear evolve through like the year and through where you are, because California is not like, Nebraska this time of year. So like, how do you do that on the fly?
It's really hard to get things and send things away on trail. It's easy if you kind of like set it up or whatever, but so I have a winter setup and a summer setup. I was currently still carrying my winter backpack. I have most of my gear for this trip in Colorado at my cousin's house. And so every turn of the seasons, I'll ask her to send me my winter sleeping bag, my summer quilt, my summer sleeping pad, my winter sleeping pad, different kind of clothes. So you really do change it up. I have a 15-degree sleeping bag for winter.
Okay.
And it's a down sleeping bag. It's made by REI. And that's what I've been carrying up until now. It's actually in this right here. And it weighs, I don't know, I think it weighs about like 2.5 pounds. And
wow.
It's really lightweight. You guys can all feel it later if you want. Wash your hands. No, just kidding. I don't care. I'm not going to use it for the rest of the trip, but still, just be mindful. So I've got this, and I actually asked my cousin when she came out for this show tonight if she wouldn't mind bringing my summer quilt with me. So it's actually the same exact sleeping bag, but it's rated to 30 instead of 15. It's a down quilt, so it has no zipper. It just has a few ties on it. So the zipper, not having a zipper takes away a lot of the weight. So it's lighter and it's more compact. This thing right here fits into this comfortably, and I can cinch it down more if I want. But my summer quilt is about half of this, and it's just like, you can throw it like a football. It's like more, you can hold it in your hand.
Sure.
It's so much less bulky. And that really helps me a lot, because if it's windy or whatever, or just carrying less weight, it's just, if you don't need it, don't carry it. If it's a little bit too much, you don't need it. If you can shave down ounces or grams or whatever you can shave down,
absolutely.
Cut your toothbrush in half. I don't care. Make it less weight. I used to cut my toothbrush in half, but I'm more bougie than that now. Now I just hike all the miles, and I get strong, and I carry my weight with pride.
There you go. So like, what's a piece of gear that you had at the beginning, even in, like on the Appalachian Trail, but what's a piece of gear that you had at the beginning that you don't have now, and vice versa?
Oh my goodness. A piece of gear that I had that I don't have anymore? That's a good question.
Like, I feel like knives are a common answer for that. Like, people are just like, oh yeah, I gotta have a knife.
I've lost like 35 knives on the trail.
Right.
I went half this trail without even having a pocket knife. I didn't even have anything to cut any, but then again, the only thing I do is use it to cut up cheese. That's it. So I am Italian, and I like to carry fresh garlic with me, and I carry like fresh cheese, and I carry as much because I love to cook.
You used to have like a whole charcuterie board on the trail?
It's funny you should ask. I've made one in a hotel room once. I've even flame broiled I made roasted peppers on my stove in a hotel room. I was like, I hope they don't kick me out. But I brought some down. I brought this whole charcuterie board that I created down to the girl at the front desk, and she loved it. Shout out to Amanda.
Shout out Amanda.
But yeah, okay, so back to the question though. So gear that I carried and I don't carry anymore.
Yeah.
There's not a lot, really. I carried some stupid stuff, I think, when I first started the Appalachian Trail, but that was so long ago, I don't remember. Now I can remember a lot of things that I carried on this trail that I didn't need in the beginning. It was just extra clothes. A lot of these things are extra clothes.
Okay.
Stuff you don't need. Clothes weigh so much. How many clothes can you wear at once? It was like I had an ex-boyfriend, and his uncle wanted to give him this 6 CD changer, and he said, you could really probably use this 6 CD changer. And my ex-boyfriend said, well, how many CDs am I listening to at once? Touche, right? You don't need it. How many clothes can I carry at once? Only the ones on my back. So you only really carry the essential extra items. But yeah, I did pretty well on my Appalachian Trail hike, and there's not a lot of stuff that I started with that I don't. I mean, I picked up a lot of stupid stuff along the way. Like, I carried a Christmas tree, Christmas 2022. I don't even celebrate Christmas. I just carried it because I thought it would be cool, and I wanted some sense of normalcy in what I was doing because I wasn't seeing anyone on trail. And I was hearing Christmas music if I walked in through towns. And I'm like, I don't care if I don't celebrate Christmas. It's a warm season. It's a warm feeling, Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to feel warm and cozy in my tent because when I went through northern Indiana on Christmas, it was negative 30s.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't walk through northern Indiana.
I had a place to stay, but
okay, good. So, how much water do you carry with you at any one time? Because water is heavy. So how much do you carry?
Water weighs just about 8 pounds a gallon.
Yeah.
And I carry only as much as I have to, with the exception of when I was in the desert, and I would carry as much as I could.
Okay.
I don't tend to drink a ton of water while I'm hiking. I don't know why. I feel like I'm just perpetually dehydrated, but right now, I've been carrying 2 liters of water, which is not really enough, but I'm going through so many towns now that I'm in California that I don't need to. But before I get into these areas like headed toward Marin and all these other places where I know I'll be going through, I think, places that I might not go through a town for 3 or 4 days, I don't know how much natural water is flowing.
Right.
So I can carry 4 liters of water in my backpack, and then also from what I've dealt with in the desert in Utah, I can carry another 2 gallons in my hands, and it sucks so bad. It really hurts to carry so much water in both of your hands. And when I was in Utah, Bob Palin put out water caches for me, and I had to just find them and dig them out of the ground, and they are gallons of water. And I would sit there with sun poisoning and have my little, I had an accordion foam sleeping pad at that time. And so I would just sit my butt on the very edge of it and have the sun behind me, and I would put it up over my head. Mm-hmm. And I would have my waters between my legs and my map, and I would just sit there and try to just stay in the shade and not let my water evaporate while I was sitting there. Right. But you need to carry as much water as you can. I would drink as much as I could out of those gallons, so I'd only have to carry a half gallon and a half gallon, because once you start carrying 1 and 1 gallon, it starts to put pressure on the other parts of your back. Right. I had a lot of problems with my shoulders were getting cut into with my backpack straps, and right. I had a lot of problems with my hips getting cut into. I was getting raw. I was bleeding. It was making it extremely hard for me to carry on. Plus, you have to figure in the sweat that you're creating. I'm a really sweaty person, And
that.
I would be, and you're dehydrated. It didn't matter how much water I was drinking. I was still dehydrated. So I had all of this salt coming out of my body, aggravating anything that was rubbing on my body. So I was getting rubbed raw, and it was really hard sometimes for me to keep hiking because I knew I was starting off from where I left the day before, and that was going to be a really painful day. It's just a part of the struggle, but you just have to push on because you know that you're doing this for a reason, and there's nothing stopping you from your goal. So you have to just keep pushing.
Sure. Is there any, maybe not that point, but like, is there any point where at which you like give serious thought to like giving up, like, you know, stopping, questioning why you're doing this, anything like that, you know?
There were 2 times when I never thought of, I've never one time ever in my entire life of hiking, Appalachian Trail, American Discovery Trail, nothing. I have never once in my mind ever thought of giving up, ever, 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 ever.
Hold on, I think we're about to get a comma here, folks.
Thank you. That being said, there was one time where I felt a trail low during my hike, which I never expected. It was when I'd hiked, because when I hiked the trail, I started from Delaware, went to Ohio, hiked the southern route, got to Denver, flew back to Ohio, hiked the northern route, back to Denver, and then I was headed back to the mountains again to finish.
Okay.
And so when I got back to the northern route and I'd hiked all that way and I went through Omaha, Nebraska and blowing through the wind, I almost got blown away like Toto. And so then I ended up getting to back to Colorado, and I was at the foothills of the mountains. And it was just something so weird. I just started to feel very depressed. It was like I knew that after I got through this point, and I had already gone through all the Midwest stuff, and I was going into the mountains again, and I just felt like, I don't know what happened. I can't even honestly tell you to this day exactly what was going through my mind or what caused this to happen. I have no idea. But I just started to feel like, you know, I do know why. But I just started to feel like it didn't mean anything anymore. My hike didn't mean anything. I'm like, what am I even doing? Am I even inspiring one person? Like, does this mean anything to anybody, what I'm doing? Or am I just struggling through this hike day to day, spending my life savings, doing absolutely nothing? When I get done, I'll be broke, homeless, and jobless. So what it was I don't know. I think like I needed to realize that I was going to be going back into the best part of the trail, back into the Rockies, back into the, like I was going to be hiking along the Continental Divide Trail. I was going to be meeting other hikers. I was going to be seeing some of the best views that I was going to see. And I just think like I hit like this low point. Like what happened? So I was trying to get into all these, I was trying to book a bunch of speaking engagements in Boulder, Denver area. I was trying to get on the news. I was trying to go raise money to feed people that were camping out on the streets of Denver. And I was getting no response from anybody as far as, you know, can I speak somewhere? Do you guys want to do a television interview? Right. I just want to reach as many people. Denver's a huge city. It's a great place to reach out to people.
Sure.
It's a great place to speak at schools. It's a great place to inspire people. Right. And I heard crickets when I got there. And I felt like I've just hiked all the way. This is the second time I've gotten to Colorado. I have only now from this Colorado end to California. I've done all of this. In the beginning of this trip, I struggled so hard reaching out to people, seeing if they want to do an interview, seeing if I just want to get this out here. I just want to inspire people. And a lot of people looked at this like, oh, well, she just started. Like, we don't know what she's going to do. Like, she's probably going to quit or whatever, this or that. And nobody cared about me. Nobody gave a damn about me. I was like, all right. So I was used to that. But now here I am again, and I only have X amount of miles to go. And I'm like, and I'm not hearing back from anyone. So I kind of like fell into a slight depression. And I was just like, I feel like I'm doing this for nothing. I feel like if Denver doesn't want me to speak, hello, what am I even doing? And so I just kind of felt like I was a joke, and I'm like, well, whatever. So I took about a month off. I was also running out of money, so I had to work again. And I mean, I write a newspaper column, I do public speaking, but I've also had to substantiate by working on the side. So I picked up work working for a good friend of mine, landscaping in Colorado. And so I stayed in Vail, Colorado for like about a week or two working for her. And then I continued back on trail, and I just kind of like, sometimes you just need to like kick yourself in the ass and be like, look, it doesn't matter what you think. Like, just keep smashing your goal. Like, it doesn't matter. If nobody sees you, it doesn't matter. It's okay. You're doing what you want to do. You're doing it for yourself. Just keep pushing, girlfriend. Just keep walking. Just keep your ass moving, really. And that's it. And so I was like, I'm about to get into the mountains. I don't know why I'm so depressed right now. Don't let this hinder you. Just keep going. And so I just kept going, and I pushed through. But yeah, that was a rough time for me. Sure. That was probably the only time I was ever going to I was never going to quit. Who am I kidding? No, I would never quit. No, that was the only time that I ever thought like this was like, I felt like it was an insignificant hike. And I had put so many high hopes on doing this to reach out to so many people. And I just felt like I didn't have a chance to reach anybody in one of the biggest cities that I was walking through. It was kind of a big letdown for me.
Yeah.
The only other time I ever considered ending my hike was not by choice, but it was in Nevada in Water Canyon when I walked through this increasingly closing canyon that is actually no longer even part of the trail anymore, but I did not know that. I was just trying to hike the original route of the trail. Okay. And this is the map that I had, so I started walking down there, and as I got down there, the trail closed up, and I no longer had a way to get through. I was pushing through thorns. My legs were torn up so bad. And I was half a mile from my point where I would maybe meet onto this little dirt road. So I put my tent up that night, and it was already dark by the time I was like, I can't go anymore. I just have to find a place to put my tent. And it was just this little rock outcropping. It was like there were thorns everywhere, so I was really afraid of getting my tent ripped up.
Right, sure.
So I just kind of like set it up a little bit. Like I didn't even stake it out all the way that it is now. And I slept in there, and the next day I found a way that visually that I would climb up over the canyon and get out that way, because I couldn't go through the thorns anymore, and I couldn't even walk on the creek. It was like completely engulfed in these thorns, and my legs were, I can't even explain to you enough how ripped to shreds my legs were. They were just sore, and like I was done. And so I started climbing up out of the canyon.
Is this picture?
This is my view, yeah. Those are my legs. And I climbed up that canyon for about a couple hours, and I kept sliding back down. I'd slide down 45 feet, self-arrest, climb back up. And this scree was just it was this like flat rock, just very sliding, loose rock. Every once in a while you would hit a solid rock. But that was my view for 2.5 hours, and the only time I've ever pushed my SOS button to get rescued out of there. I climbed up, and it kept getting steeper and steeper and steeper. And my legs, that was from like the night before, you know? Mm-hmm. That was just from getting down into that canyon. And when I realized it just closed up, there was nowhere else to go.
Right.
And I decided, girl, you got to find a way to get out of here. Yeah. And I visualized it. I found a way to get out, and I started climbing the next day, and I climbed up, and then I got to this certain point, and I got stuck there. So I was sitting there, and...
Sorry, what do you mean you got stuck there?
So the canyon wall got steeper and steeper the more I climbed up. And it ended up being a level point. It looked like it was going to be level, and then there was a rock, just a big rock monolith right there.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I said, I know that there's got to be some flat land right there. So if I can just get up there, I can walk there. And I know, just looking at my map and looking at the topography, the contour lines, I knew I could get down in a much less steep way, mm-hmm. because I could not physically push myself through that canyon. So this was my view for 2.5 hours or so as I reluctantly pushed the SOS button on my spot device because it was getting so steep that every time I kept sliding down, I could not self-arrest anymore. And I ended up getting really tired. And it was noon, the sun was shining, I had already lost my sunglasses, I had lost my hat, I had thrown down my trekking poles because I needed all 4 points of contact.
Right.
I found a place where it got a little bit less steep and there was a little piece of large rock exposed, so I sat on that rock. And I took one shoulder of my backpack off and I leaned against it and I sat there and I was like, there's no way I'm getting out of here with my backpack. And if I leave my backpack here, no one's coming back to get it, including me. And if I leave here without my backpack, my hike is over. I'm in Nevada. I have less than 1,000 miles to go, and I'll be goddamned if I don't finish this trail. So I had to push that button on my Garmin. I pushed the button, SOS, and it took quite a long time, you know, and I wasn't in distress. I wasn't physically injured. I wasn't worried. I wasn't scared or anything. But I sat there and looked at this view for 2.5 hours, and I could actually see the rescue driving in because you can see the dirt road, you can see the clouds coming up from the vehicles, and I was like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. I was just so embarrassed because I wasn't hurt. I always have one limb left, and I am completely decapitated. But you know what? Looking back, you don't want to be completely decapitated leaving this trail.
Right.
Like, I don't know what I was thinking about. I was like, why am I trying to be such a tough guy? Sometimes you just have to continue to be a badass, but do the right thing.
Sure.
And looking back on now, I am no longer ashamed of what I did. I'm actually proud of myself for doing that.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't do that, I would not be here talking to you all today, because I would have gone down again. I wouldn't have been in there. I would not have been here, hands down.
So, like, I think that's a really great example of, you know, smart awareness of like yourself and sort of your realist and like your limitations, right? And there's no shame in acknowledging those. And in fact, like, it could save your life, like in the right circumstances. So how do you find that, like, your turn back point, your drop dead point? Like, how do you, like, what's your process for figuring out, like, if I get to this level, like, I'm turning around no matter what, you know?
It took a long time for me to push that button. I was thinking that like 24 hours before that or 12 hours before that when I decided to set up my camp. And I had plenty of times where I could have turned around, because when I was walking through this thorn bush, it just kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller, close together. And I never once thought to turn around and go back. And then once I got into the thick of it, I definitely wasn't turning around and going back, because I had to go back the way I came. My legs were so ripped up and so sore. And I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't do it. I was not willing to turn around and go back. But when you get to that point, I think people know on a different level, depending on who you are and what your limitations are. My limitations are wildly different from everyone's. You know, everybody has their own level of comfort.
Right.
And mine just happens to be off the wall, apparently. So I luckily I called, and I really felt like I had to really reason with myself. I'm like, is it worth it? Should I just keep trying to climb up? And the bottom line was, I'm either gonna call for help, or I'm gonna leave my backpack here and hike out by myself. All I needed was somebody to carry my backpack. That's all I needed. I just needed a little bit of help. And I wasn't injured. I wasn't distressed, like I said. All I needed was a little push. That's all I needed.
Sure.
And if I had left my pack there, my hike was over. That's it. And there's no way that I'm going to disappoint all these people and myself by doing this. Like, I'm totally I'm capable of doing this. So I just called. I made the call, and these two young guys came. They picked up my backpack. They bounded over this canyon-like mountain goats. And I was like, God bless your soul. But they were in like tennis shoes. The guy's like, I was like, do you have ropes? Because I can throw you my bag. He's like, no, we don't have ropes. They're like, no, we're just going to run down here and do this. I'm like, seriously? But these guys were some of the best guys ever. These 4 guys, two of the younger guys came up and grabbed my backpack, and we all walked out together. The same route that I was gonna hike out. That was kind of cool for me, knowing that I'd picked the right route in my mind. And they helped me out of there, and we got down to the bottom, and the other 2 guys were down at the bottom. They're super cool, down-to-earth guys, and they gave me a ride back to Preston, Nevada, where I had people waiting for me. My dad and my stepmom were out visiting.
Oh, nice.
And so they had been waiting for me, and I couldn't get a hold of them because I had no service. So I had to get a hold of them through Garmin and say, like, hey, just want to let you know I'm not in any danger, but I had to push the SOS button. And then they're like, oh, and everybody's freaking out. And I called my cousin, and she's freaking out. And she's like, they're going to try to get you on horseback. And I'm like, trust me, if you can't pull a horse through here. If you could pull a horse through here, I would have been out of here last night, you know? Like, you can't do that.
Sure.
Like, yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah. You know, I want to go back to the Denver story a little bit, because you mentioned something that I think is really interesting. You talked about, you know, how when you got there, you felt really unmotivated and discouraged because no one was there, and like you didn't have the opportunity to inspire anyone. But you got through it because you felt, you know, you kind of looked within and found your own goal and was just like, put one foot in front of the other, just make this many miles a day, you know, get to this point, get to that point, keep moving on. Mm-hmm. How do you balance the sort of like internal motivation versus like external motivation when you're on the trail?
You just have to keep your goals in check. You have to know what you're doing this for. And you have to realize that sometimes when you're not maybe reaching the people that you're trying to reach, and maybe you're not succeeding in one way, that you're still fulfilling your personal goal. So, but by doing that, also, I am still getting out there and inspiring other people. I just have to keep going, and it's all a self-propelled thing. It's completely self-propelled. You just have to keep moving. You just have to keep doing it. That's all. That's hands down. And it's okay to have bad days. It's okay to have a bad month. It's okay to question whether you want to continue. Take all the time you want off. Take time to think about it. You know, maybe it's not right. Maybe you have to take a break and come back to it. Maybe you want to quit and go home. That's okay. It's all right. As long as you get out there and get what you're trying to get out of this, that's all that matters. You know, It doesn't matter at the end of the day. It doesn't matter really. Even what I'm trying to do, like I always say, if I've inspired one person here tonight, I am happy. But you know what? If I didn't, then I need to still be doing this for myself at the end of the day. And I think, thanks.
You know, at least one.
Just one.
We're all inspired by you tonight. But, you know, on a more pragmatic note, how do you support yourself when you're on the trail? You mentioned taking some time off to work. How else do you make money? You know, I think people, when they think about doing what you're doing, I think a big stumbling block for folks is funding. How do they pay for stuff? How do they, you know, think about this in terms of their lives? Like, how do you make ends meet? Yeah,
I get asked that question all the time, and I just have to say, like, I just sell pictures of my feet. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I've never done that. I have huge bunions. Nobody wants to see that. So other than having a few sponsors, I have a few sponsors. I have people that support my hike. I also write. I'm a journalist, so I write for a newspaper called The Daily Bulldog. It's a Maine newspaper. My column is called America on 2 Feet. And also, I try to book as many public speaking engagements as I can across America. And like you said, I stop and work. And it sometimes is easy, sometimes it's hard. When I was in Colorado, I stopped and worked for a woman that I've gone on many, Sarah Pounder, I've gone on many, many outdoor trips with her, hiking, river trips. And she owns this landscaping business, so I worked for her while I was there in Colorado. I worked, believe it or not, I was a bouncer at a bar in Corydon, Indiana. I've done a lot of other just odd jobs, just working in restaurants, just doing whatever I can. If somebody needs help, you want to move furniture, you want to pay somebody. And usually when you meet people in towns and cities and stuff, or anywhere you are, and you make friends and say, hey, I'm looking to make some money. Like just recently I worked in Tahoe at a retail store. I worked at the store where you can come in and create your own candles and art and make teddy bears and make pottery and paint that and stuff. And so it was like super, it was up in North Star. So I did that over the holidays. I worked Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve. We worked, and there were a lot of people there. So it was cool. I just do whatever I can to make extra money on the side if I have to. Sure. To substantiate myself. Other than that, I'm solely running off of my own savings and the donations of anybody that feels inspired by my hike.
And if people did feel inspired and wanted to donate, where could they do that?
Right in my pocket. Thank you.
All right, cash donations it is.
Yeah,
also, I do think we have your Venmo in the description.
Yeah, I have a Venmo account, and that's really all I have as far as online.
All right.
If you want to make a donation online or whatever, but
that and the Feet website, right?
Yeah, and yes. So the Feet website is also, it's like called stinkyfeet.com. Bigbunions.org.
It's a good user. It's a good handle. So, when you go, you go all over, you meet all kinds of people. Like, what's your process when you go into a new place for meeting people and establishing a network and making friends?
The first place that I walked into when I first started this trail, the first place I actually walked into after being on trail was maybe the fourth or fifth day after I crossed into Maryland. It was like the third day I crossed into Maryland. And they always said, you'll tell when you walk into Maryland because you could tell how the road changes, how they take care of the roads from Delaware to Maryland. Well, there was a foot of snow on the ground, so I couldn't even see the road where it was. Uh-huh. So I was like, I don't know if I'm in Maryland or not, but when I got to the American Legion, I knew that I was going to be in Maryland.
Right.
So I walked into Caroline Post 29, and when I got there, and this was the first establishment that I walked into on this trail. So this shaped my entire entry point, persona for the entire trail. So this is my favorite story. I walked into the American Legion and there was no music playing. There were about 15 people in there. And I walked in and it was snowing. It was dumping snow. And I had my backpack, it was my first backpack. It was a lot bigger than this one. It was heavier. I changed backpacks. But so I have my American flag bandana and I look like a abominable snowman with a backpack on walking in there. I open that door and it squeaks really loud. And I walk in and everybody slowly turns and looks at me and you can hear every bone crack in that entire place. And this one guy looks me up and down and he says, "Oh, Lord." I was like, damn, do I look that bad? I've only been walking for 4 days. So this guy, Rusty Eaton, that was the guy that was like, "Oh, Lord." So he signed me in, and I got to meet the commander of the American Legion and everything. And I just learned from that experience that how to walk into places. So I walked in, and I obviously startled everybody. And now they're all my friends, and I hope to go back there and speak soon. But when I walk into a place, what I'll do is I make sure I smile, hold myself upright, try to look semi-clean, not smell too bad, try to take care of myself, hygiene-wise, so you don't smell like body odor. And the biggest thing is smiling, looking people in the eye, being confident, standing up straight, and introducing yourself, being outgoing, walking into an establishment and saying, when everybody looks at you like you're homeless, when you walk in that door and you open that door and you say, "Hi, my name is Briana DeSanctis, and I'm walking across America. Can you sign me in so I can buy everybody a beer?" Sometimes, usually it works.
Sometimes, yeah. You're suddenly everyone's best friend.
Yeah, I walked into this place in Parkersburg, West Virginia, and a lot of people had been talking about, people that I'd met in Parkersburg had been talking about backpackers in town. This lady that came up to me who was herself did not look like she looked actually like maybe transient. And she came up to me and she said, well, she's like, what are you doing out here? And I was walking down this rail trail, and I said, well, I'm walking across America. She's like, well, there's a lot of backpackers around here. And I said, really? I'm like, are you kidding me? I thought I was the only one on this trail right now. And she's like, oh yeah, there's a lot of, you got to watch out for the back. I was like, oh, you're not talking about backpackers. Okay. So this woman, Kristen Streeter, she had emailed me and said, we heard about your trip. I'm from the news here in Parkersburg. We'd love to do a story on you, but I've seen that we've done other news stories on you. What can you do to make this different?
Right. And
I said, meet me at McDonald's in a half an hour. And I bought 75 cheeseburgers, and I said, I want you to take me to the worst parts of town, and we're going to hand out cheeseburgers to everybody that's hungry and put smiles on people's faces. And that's what we did. And we just went around passing out cheeseburgers, and I had them all in my backpack. So I was wearing a backpack. It's not like I'm some Tom, Dick, and Harry just walking around trying to give out stuff to people.
Sure.
But I was talking to these people and learning about their lives and learning what their situation was. And, you know, not all backpackers are homeless people, and not all homeless people are bad people. People are in situations that they sometimes are just in the transition. What if you're a single mom of 4 children, and then you're living in a place and that place got sold, and now all of a sudden you have to find a new place for yourself and your 4 kids, and you're trying to work and pay for daycare, and now you have to move and school, and how do you even think about doing that? Mm-hmm. So it's crazy to think about that, and then a lot of people will end up without a place to go. And I met a lot of people that were in that situation that day, and I feel like, you know, there's so much more we can do. So so by going into towns, and whenever I get received in that kind of way, it makes me feel like I just want to like reach out, and I want to make something more of an impact. You know, I just want to make an impact on that. I want people to recognize that there are people out there that are struggling, that are not, like, if somebody asks you for help, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're on drugs and they're like a useless POS. Like, they're somebody, and maybe something bad happened in their life, and you have to be sensitive to that.
Sure, absolutely. You know, one thing that I've noticed over the course of our conversation is that you have an incredible memory for names. Like, you're constantly just like name dropping as we go along here. And so,
I'm surprised.
Yeah, but it really speaks to, I think, the incredible support structure that you've built for yourself, you know, during your time doing this. So can you talk a little bit about that support structure and like what it's meant to you?
I think that when you're alone all the time, when you're hiking a lot by yourself, the people that you do meet create this incredible impact. So you remember their names, because I don't have, at this point, I have so many names to remember, but as you go along, it's in increments, so you don't necessarily have so many names that you're trying to remember, but these people stick out, and you remember, like, I remember so many people, you know, it's just this thing there. People are so generous, and you just remember that interaction, and you remember everything that you talked about with these people. There's so much I feel like I don't remember about this trip, or its geographical locations. Like, I don't know if I was in Kansas or if I was in like anywhere, like Oklahoma. I didn't even hike through Oklahoma. You know, like, I don't even know where I was at that time, but I'll remember their name, and I remember what they did, and I remember what they looked like. And you just like, you remember the gesture, and you remember what happened in that moment. And there've been so many people that have just been so gracious to me that didn't have to be. People that have given me things when I didn't even need it. And I'm like, no, really, like, I don't even need this right now. Like, you know, just people like think that I'm just like a homeless bum on the street. And I'm like, well, I'm not. I'm actually like on a hiking trip. And they're like, okay, yeah, sure you are. Yeah, okay, here's a coffee. And I'm like, yeah, I just had one at the hotel this morning. But it makes it everything that anybody's done for me, or talked to me, or like introduced themselves on the way, or pulled over in front of me, almost running me over, saying, hey, am I your first fan in Indiana? And I'm like, okay. And they're like, oh, sorry, I almost ran you over, but I've been following you online. Right now, I had to say hi. Everyone means something, you know, everybody means so much to me. Like, every single person in this audience, you guys mean so much to me for coming out. I'm not going to remember all your names, so please don't hold that against me. But everybody that's watching from home, like, I appreciate all that. You know, I know my family is like eating way too much popcorn right now in Maine watching this. Everything means so much. And like, you remember those little things, and those little things go a long way, because that's all you think about. And you think about so much when you're hiking. So these things I hold on to, and I use them while I'm by myself at night. And when I'm thinking about all the good experiences I've had, I look back on that, and I think about that all the time. And that's what keeps me going.
Absolutely. I don't want to get at it. I don't want to get out of here without talking about this incredible gear you've brought with you. So I think to end things off, I kind of want to move these chairs a little bit, or at least like have you talk through this gear that you've brought with you today. So what have we got, and what is it for? Okay,
so obviously you can see my shoes. I think the shoes are probably the most important part, because this is my Chevrolet legs. This is what I got here. So I typically wear the same make and model of shoes. This is, the brand is called Ultra, and I wear Ultras because I have bunions on both of my feet, which are bone spurs. Here, sorry if I'm showing you guys my crotch. So I have, it's a bone spur that's typically on the ball of your feet. And mine have grown a lot since I've been hiking. Even my feet have elongated from a 7.5 to now I wear a 9.5 wide in this. Yeah, oh yeah. So your feet, I mean, and I've always had a good arch, which is good, because I got a head start on this process. So your arches will flatten out. The reason why I wear Ultras, and I'm telling you what, it was so hard to walk around in these boots tonight. I'm so worried that I'm going to sprain my ankle. These have a 0 drop, which means it's the same height from the ball of your foot to the heel of your foot on the ground. You're walking flat-footed, essentially. So this makes it seem like you're actually walking more naturally, as you should. And these also have a very wide toe box. Everything else I wear, unless it's way too huge for me, it will rub on my bunions. And when you walk, I literally say my bunions are burning. It feels like a burning sensation. So I try to not have that happen, because it's really not good. So these are my shoes. This is an Ultra Lone Peak, and I've pretty much worn almost this entire model. This, by the way, I know you're all going to ask, this is my 26th pair of shoes. I go about a pair of shoes a month. When I was in Illinois, it was so hot. I had temperatures of over 100 degrees, and I was walking on blacktop one day for quite a while, and then I switched over to gravel. And at the end of the day, I had camped out in this cemetery, which is like one of my favorite places to camp out, because it's mowed, it's usually flat. And I was hiking through a tick area, so I camped out and I'm not sleeping on your Aunt Mabel. I'm sleeping at like the edge by the trees. Okay, don't you worry. So I set up my tent, and I was in my tent, and I'm like, it was so hot. I was like, I don't want any part of my body touching any part of my body. And so I started picking my shoes off, looking for ticks and everything. And I looked on the bottom of my shoe, and there was a big piece of gravel right here. So I picked it out, and I picked half of the shoe out with it. So it had melted in there. So it was just like so hot. But yeah, so I wear those for shoes. This is my water filter. This is one of the most important pieces of gear, because you need clean water, and Sawyer makes this great water filter. All you have to do is, and this is a little sketchy because it's controversial, because they're like, oh, you're putting your lips on it, it's gonna be whatever, it's okay, we can survive. So you blow this up, you put it in the stream, you collect your water, or you can do like a little cut a soda bottle like halfway down, so you can like pour it in. But you get a stream flow and you blow this up. People say it's controversial to do this because they're like, oh, it's touched dirty water. I'm like, one little drop of water is not going to kill you. Like, you need bacteria. Okay, let's get with the program, people. So you fill this up with water, or you can do it from your water bottle. It has the same threads as this water bottle. So I could also fill this with water if it's easier, but I've always just used this because I'm just old school. So I'll screw this on, and then you just go down like a toothpaste tube, and this is screwed on here, and you put it right into your water bottle. It filters your water. It doesn't matter how nasty your water is, this thing will save your life. They use this in third world countries. They use this everywhere. Get yourself a Sawyer squeeze filter, 100%. I'm not sponsored, but hey guys. So
if you want a sponsor, you know where to find it.
Another great piece of gear is this water bucket. I've used this since the Appalachian Trail. I've had this for since 2014, since I bought all my gear. This holds quite a bit of water. I put this in my back pocket of my backpack because it's easy to access. So I have this back pocket. So when I throw my backpack off and I have to like go pee or something really quick, I can access everything in here. So I have wipes in here, and then I also have like, so I'll leave the handle hanging out of my back pocket of my backpack. And I'll take my paracord, my headlamp, anything else that I need, my wipes, my, what else is in here? Oh, this little thing. I'm not gonna do it, it's really loud, but it's like my air horn in case I need to do it. I never have to use it. But this will stand up by itself. You can fill up your water. If you're going for a really long distance to get your water, you can just fill it up and walk back to your campsite, hang this on a tree, and it's got this, so you can just pour it out and you can just do it by yourself. If you can hang this on a tree, you can hold your water bottle with one hand, and you can do this with the other hand, and you don't need anybody to help you, and it's perfect. So that's amazing.
Sure.
This is my stove system, extremely light. I've got my coffee
Hold on. Who are these two comrades here?
Well, funny you should ask. So when I was in Omaha, Nebraska, my cousin visited me, and I went to this kind of kishy, it was like a vintage toy store, I guess. And they had a bunch of pinball machines, vintage toys, and I was born in '83, so I grew up with like some of this older stuff. They had a bunch of vinyl there. And I was walking along and I saw this wall full of these trolls. And I saw Raffi, and I was like, she is so cute, and her shirt says, "You're very special." And I just looked at her and I was like, I don't know. I think I need to buy her. She was $10, but she's priceless to me. And I named her Raffi because this is very important for me to tell you today. I named her Raffi after my great aunt, who is my favorite person in the whole entire world. She came over here as a baby from Sicily, had to learn English in schools where people didn't like her, made fun of her because she was Italian. And she was one of my biggest inspirations in my whole life, and actually today is her birthday. So it's a huge honor for me to be doing this today. So happy birthday, Mimi.
Happy birthday.
So I named her Raffi because people used to call her Raffi. Her name is Raphael, so people used to call her Raffi. So I named her Raffi, and she's always with me. She's my little support, and she doesn't hike any miles for me. She's kind of lazy. She rides in my backpack. And she picked up this duck somewhere in Colorado, and now we have her support animal. So I have no emotional liaison to this thing. I'm just carrying around for extra weight. So, but yeah, so this is Raffi and Ducky. So there they are. But yes, they're great companions. I always make a fire. She likes sitting by the fire and riding in the back of my backpack, looking out. But and this is I believe this is actually an MSR stove, and I just screw it onto the fuel canister, and then I fill this thing with water. And this has been really great because the top actually stays on, so I can put it on there, and I boil my water in this. And the reason why I'm carrying this I'm a coffee drinker. I don't know if y'all are. But I'm like a hardcore coffee drinker, okay? Who drinks coffee out here? Okay, yeah, so a lot of you drink coffee. So you could also do this with tea, but I have this that I bought at Walmart. It's like $2. And I put this in here. And I am bougie when it comes to my coffee now because on the Appalachian Trail, I drank instant. So now I'm not doing that anymore.
Sure.
So I will pour my ground coffee in here and boil my water in here and pour it in here. Easy peasy, and you have luxury. You know, it's so good in the morning. Like you just feel like you just don't feel so much like hiker trash. You feel like kind of like a human being.
That's so
good.
Like,
I just drank coffee today. Maybe I'll read the news. Who knows?
That's the height of luxury right there. That's like Macaulay Culkin eating pizza in the back of the limo in Home Alone.
I know, like cheese pig. Get the hell out of here. So, how many people have a junk drawer in their house? You guys have a junk drawer? You guys got like all your extra stuff in there? Yeah, batteries. So this is like my junk drawer. I have my Yeah, junk compartment, perfect. Yeah, this is actually my junk compartment too. I have electronic charging cords, batteries, first aid kit, which consists of one maxi pad to sop up excessive blood if I start bleeding like crazy, needle and thread if I have to sew my body up, and Neosporin, because Neosporin is the one all end all. So I have that and my charging cords. Then this is my sleeping pad. It is inflatable. It's kind of self-inflating. Don't let that fool you. It's not self-inflating. You still have to blow up 33 full breaths to get this thing going. But it is very warm. It is, I don't know if you know what R value is. R value is the way that they measure the insulation for a sleeping pad. And this one's a pretty high one. I think it's like a 3.7 or something, maybe like 4. But it's good for winter camping. So at this point, I probably could go back to my accordion foam sleeping pad. But I just don't want to. I want to finish on a good note. I want to sleep good the rest of the time I'm out here.
Sure.
I'm strong enough. I can carry this is definitely heavier than the other one that I had, but it's so much worth it, more worth it. This is my clothes bag.
You really
How many clothes can you wear at one time, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not putting in here what I'm wearing on trail, because normally I would be wearing that here, but my cousin was like, you are not wearing your hiking clothes there because they're not even gonna let you in. And so
Did you borrow your clothes tonight?
I sure did. Yep, I borrowed all of my clothes. Every single one. This came from my cousin. This came from a woman that I've never met before that let me stay in her house in Sacramento. I've never met her. Thank you, Sarah Lynn. And the boots. Yeah, I don't just carry these. These weigh more than my backpack.
Wow.
Yeah, I've never met her, but my friend from Virginia City said, when you go through Clarksburg, I'll give you this number of this girl that I know. She's a good friend of mine, and she'll probably let you sleep in her yard. And she goes, no, sleep in my house. Take whatever you want for food out of the fridge. Watch TV. Do your laundry. Take a shower. Actually, you know what? Oh, you're going to this gig in LA? Well, why don't you go in my closet and borrow some clothes? She said, you should get like 5 or 6 outfits. I was like, no. I'm a hiker. I'm ultralight. I don't want to carry all that weight. And she's like, understood. So I borrowed this dress, and I hope you guys like it. So, do I look all right? I don't know. So that's my clothes bag. Usually it's whatever I'm wearing plus maybe like either shorts if I'm wearing pants or pants if I'm wearing shorts, maybe one shirt, and really nothing else. Sleeping bag liner goes in there. My food is...
Socks.
Yeah, I have 3 pairs of socks. I have one pair that I'm wearing now. I have another pair that's a lighter hiker sock, just lighter for when it's going to be hotter outside, or if it's raining outside and I don't want to get it soaked. And then I have my sleep socks, which are like a really softy, little, really nice like sock. My food consists of everything that I hate to eat now. I'm so sick of my food. I will do anything to avoid eating anything in this food bag right now.
So what's in the food bag?
Would you like to see?
I would love to see.
Okay. Do we have time?
Yeah, we have all the time in the world. This is your show.
I mean, if you guys
Don't
are tired,
worry.
you can go home and go to bed. I'm tired, but I can't go home. So I started eating these. These meals are from Stowaway Gourmet. They are made in Oregon. And I like to make a joke. I hope he doesn't get offended because it's not true. So don't think that it's true, but it's just funny. So I like to tell people that my father found alcohol on Amazon on the same day and also got an interest in my hiking trip. So he ended up buying a huge case of these. And he bought all these hiker meals for me. So this was such a difference of what I was eating before, because I don't usually eat a ton of freeze-dried meals because I just don't have the luxury of doing it. But if you buy me a bunch, of course I'm gonna eat them.
Of course.
So this is like a Mexican chicken stew. It's delicious. Then this is actually good to go. It's made in Maine. And I have this one. It's a chicken gumbo. These are all dehydrated meals, so all you have to do is boil water.
Gumbo from Maine.
I have, from Maine.
I can see why you may not love to eat these.
You have to watch out because we're not at sea level. Well, I am now, but I wasn't a lot of the time. So you have to be mindful of that, because sometimes you're going to cook these meals and you have to realize you're at 9,000 feet, 11,000 feet. You have to leave it sitting in there for like
Right.
a long time. So I have 2 winter hats. One I wear on my head, and then the one that is fleece lined, or my jacket hood or whatever, but the one that's fleece lined, I will leave that, and after I boil my water and pour it in here, I will put my hat over this, and I'll just fold it over and put it with me in my tent and hope I don't roll over on it and forget it's there before it's done. Just to insulate it so it makes sure it's hot when I eat it. Beef jerky is another thing that I eat a lot. This is like, I really don't, if anyone wants this oatmeal, please take it. I am so sick of oatmeal. Any flavor. I have strawberry, I have cinnamon, I have maple. This is another one. You guys can't have any of these. These are really good. But I also have a packet, so I've got my long-handled spork, which is really important when you're eating, so it can reach down into the,
Crucial.
so you want to get every single bit of this, because
Sure.
at the end of the day, when you're eating your food, you don't want to have any food waste. You're also going to be carrying this out, so you have to think about, you're packing out all your trash, so you have to make sure that you're eating everything. And if I don't eat everything, I will boil more water and fill it up with water and drink the rest like as soup, because it'll hydrate you.
Interesting.
Yeah, you just
Right.
want this to be as clean as possible, and half the time I'm reusing these bags for food again.
Okay.
This is my sauce condiment packet. I've got sauces, I have Cholula. Usually I go into a gas station and I find these. And I'll just take them, just whatever, buy a coffee or hot dog or something, nobody cares. Another freeze-dried. This is like actually laden with freeze-dried meals. So this is a lot more bougie than I've been on this whole trip. But this is what I'm down to, and I'm so thankful that I'm down to the good stuff and not the struggle bus stuff. But I've got some Spam. I love Spam. Does anyone love Spam? Yeah,
Spam,
not many.
Spam gang.
Okay. Well,
All right.
you have to cook it.
What's your favorite flavor?
Have you ever tried figgy pudding Spam?
That sounds awful.
Yeah, it's a holiday Spam,
But is
I'll
it
tell
good?
you. It's an acquired taste.
Okay.
It's an acquired taste. I also do a lot of tuna packets. We have all kinds of varieties here. We have flavored, we have wild tuna, we have wild caught, safely caught tuna. We have dangerously caught tuna. We have buffalo tuna. We have tuna that I don't know if it's buffalo or chicken or tuna. A couple of granola bars. It's whatever. When you're on a trip like this, you're no longer eating for pleasure. You're eating for fuel.
Yeah.
If you can understand what I'm saying. So everything you're eating, it really kind of doesn't really matter what it is anymore, because you stop to eat and you're like, I just have to eat this because I need energy, because I can feel myself bunking out. Like, I have to keep going, especially in the mountains, especially when you're in terrain that is rough,
Sure.
So you have to do that. A lot of times what I'll do is have this peanut butter, and I'm not doing it now because it'll probably make me puke, but I will open it up and just squeeze it into my mouth and just eat some peanut butter in the morning. I'll eat one of these. This is like a granola bar. They're pretty heavy. I don't eat them all the time because they're kind of heavy. But if I have one, then I'll eat it, and then I'll just drink a bunch of peanut butter. And it helps you. You're eating for fuel. You're not eating for pleasure anymore, which is why whenever I stay with people, I like to use their kitchens if they have a kitchen, and I'll cook. I'll say, hey, let's go to the grocery store and let me cook. And they're like, oh, we'll take you to KFC. And I'm like, no, how about let me cook some real food? Don't say that crap.
Reminds me of a
Day's food is that?
Right now, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, this is easily 5 days of food.
Oh, okay.
It depends on if you're going to take me out to eat one of those nights or not.
What's your favorite thing to cook when you have the chance to go to a grocery store?
Oh, if I'm not on trail?
Yeah,
Or if I am on trail?
either. Is there a
Okay.
different answer?
Yeah, there's big time.
Okay.
When I was in northern Indiana on Christmas 2022, I was staying with some friends. It was 38 below zero with a lake effect on Lake Michigan. I was
Right.
in Crown Point, Indiana.
Yep.
And I was not able to be outdoors without getting frostbite within 15 minutes. And so I was staying with some friends that my mom and dad had made before I was born. And they lived in Indiana way before I was born. So I remember getting Christmas cards back and forth from them and saying, hey, Mom, do you remember Cindy from Indiana? Does she live anywhere near the trail? And she's like, yeah, she does. So she let me come stay with her and her husband. They don't really cook a whole lot, and they weren't doing anything for Christmas, so I stayed with them, and I made them chicken lettuce wraps. I made them all kinds of food. We made amazing breakfasts. I love making anything. I love to cook food. I like to grill. I'll make anything. So, you know, if anybody wants me to come stay with them at any point, I'm an excellent cook. I cook everything from scratch.
All right,
like,
folks.
you know, we can work it out.
We'll work it out.
I just love cooking. Like, those are the two things that I miss the most about hiking are cooking and gardening, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to finish this off real quick. You already talked about what's in the gray bag. It's your sleeping bag.
Yeah, this is my sleeping bag.
But then what goes into the big bag?
Everything else, like everything that's
What is
out
everything
here.
else? It just feels like, oh, I see.
All
You put
of this
all of
stuff
those.
goes in there.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I really don't have anything else in here. I have my tent stakes. They go in the side. I have a little pocket knife that goes in here. And I've got everything that I put in this bag is actually in here. So that's like my headlamp and stuff. It's all the stuff that I want to pull out really quick if I need it. Like once I get to camp, because every night when I get to camp, I have to take everything out of my backpack because my sleeping bag and my tent are in the very bottom of my pack.
Right.
So I empty my pack every single night when I get to camp. Mm-hmm. And then I'll set up my tent, and then I'll put everything else back in my backpack. And then in the morning, I have to take everything else back out of my backpack so I can put my tent and my sleeping bag in. It sucks. It's not favorable. Like, you get so tired. I always wish, like, I don't wish I had anybody hiking with me, but I wish that I had someone just to, like, do this stuff for me sometimes. It gets really monotonous. But as far as, like, in this back pocket, like, I put this, my headlamp, I'll put some paracord, I put some wet wipes, I put this little horn, put my shit shovel, everything I need, I put it right in there. Oh, and then I have my Garmin too.
Okay.
So in case I run into emergency,
Sure.
I can always just, and this handle is always hanging out of that pocket. So I
Right.
can always grab it out.
Grab it fast.
You know?
And then we have the 600-pound silver gorilla in the room. So tell us about this tent.
So this is a Big Agnes copper spur 2-person tent. I originally started hiking with a 1-person tent, and it ended up getting shredded up in hailstorms in, I think it was Indiana. And then I bought another one, and
Not a good time. Indiana, just not a good time.
No, it's terrible. It's always it's a good time. It's never a good time. There's never a good time to be camping out in the middle of the night and see the ceiling of your tent brushing against your nose. Okay, I know I have a big nose, but it's not that big. Like, it's just flattened. Your tent is flattened against your body from the wind. And I'm like, just waiting for the pole to snap. I'll be like, I was in my tent, I remember one night, and it's just hailing and the wind, and I couldn't hear anything. The wind was so strong. And I was laying in my tent, like, I had my feet way up, like, against the walls of my tent, and I was pushing against these that I could barely reach, but they were just getting pushed this and that way. And I was just like, my tent is going to snap right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, please don't do this. Please don't do this. Because I don't want to get up at 3 a.m. in this rain and this hail and move right now. Because I have nowhere else to set up. I'll have no tent set up. My tent broke twice on me, but the customer service at Big Agnes is off the chain. They have great customer service. Every time I'd be like, hey, it's your good friend Briana. So I was in this hailstorm, and it's crazy because it wasn't even like, I wasn't even in the mountains. I was in Iowa. I was in Indiana. Like, I was in Indiana the first time that happened. There was a hailstorm, and my tent got demolished and the pole snapped. Last time I was in Iowa, and the winds were so bad, it just snapped it in half. And then I got a new tent, because I was like, I'm not dealing with this pole thing anymore, and I'm ready to upgrade to a 2-person. Got my 2-person tent, and it was the second night that I had that up, and I was in Iowa, and I had camped out, and I had it was so windy. It was like 55, 65 mile an hour winds all day long. I put my tent up, and I had it in between these 2 lines of pine trees, thinking, like, this is the only windbreak I have. I set my tent up, I staked it all the way down, and there was a little town nearby, and I was like, and I'd been fighting the wind all day. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go have a cheeseburger. I deserve it. I went to town, I had a cheeseburger, I came back, and I'll be goddamn, my tent pole was something, it was right here. something about this, I don't remember what it was now, but it broke. So I have this actual like makeshift thing on here now because they told me how to do a field repair.
Oh, neat. Okay.
So I got back and my tent was all lopsided, and I'm like, are you kidding me? This is my brand new tent, and I just destroyed it. Great. But it was just the wind was so bad. Like, you can't fight. There's so much, the nature out here in the United States, no matter where you go, like, you're going to hit some severe stuff, and you're going to be caught up in it.
It can get gnarly,
yeah,
for sure.
It was crazy. So I was like, kind of like, well, you know, I did the best I could, and then I field repaired it, and it's been fine ever since. It's fine, you know. You just work with what you got.
Yeah, you make it work.
They have great customer service, and they've been so good to me. I'm like, I'm not going to complain, you know. I mean, I did the best I could. I put it up in the trees, but it's still windy, so.
You just call them again. You're just like, hey, me again.
Yeah, hey, guys, it's me again.
Well, Briana, thank you so much for joining us. I think I can speak for everyone here where I say this has been truly inspiring and really, really amazing to hear your story and be a part of your journey. If you have just a little bit of time, like, left, like, I think would love to take some questions from the audience.
I would love to.
Sure. So wait a second, Lance will pass around the mic.
Hi, Briana. Thanks very much for coming, interrupting your trip here with just a few 100 miles to go. And congratulations on making it all the way across the United States. That's amazing. So how many, typically, what would a week like? Were you like hiking 6 days and taking a lay day? And then when you're on a trail, is it like 5 miles, 10 miles? Would you ever do like 25 miles in a day? And you know, what was a big day? What was a bad day? How many lay days in a row would you do? What was your typical week or 2 weeks like?
Do you have a question cut off, or do you not? That's a lot of questions. Okay, can we start with one question first? Okay, so my typical amount of miles per day, every question you ask me wildly depends. So I'm going to keep asking you what you asked me because I'm going to forget. But so as far as the miles per day goes, I usually base my day on a 20-mile day, wildly depending on everything. Terrain, daylight, places where I'm going to end up. I'll hike another 10 miles. I hiked 30 miles into Marble, Colorado because I couldn't find a place to camp because it went from BLM land to everything is private property and there was nowhere to camp, and I was going down a very steep hill, and I hiked all the way to Marble, so that was like 28-mile day. I hiked 3 mountain ranges that day. But it's out of necessity is the amount of miles that I hike, but I try to base it on a 20-mile day if I can, depending on where I think I'm going to camp, if I find a good place to camp or whatever, but I like to base it about 20 miles. Okay, so go on to the next one.
5, 6 days a week, take a lay day.
Yeah, I like to try to work banker's hours and banker's days. No, it depends. It also depends. Usually, I'm not gonna walk Monday through Friday and take Saturday, Sunday off. But I'll walk as many days until I feel like maybe I need a day off. I think a day off just kind of happens. I don't plan them. I really don't plan them. The other day, I wasn't planning on taking the day off. I was going to hike out of Clarksburg, and this woman was like, well, I really want to introduce you to some friends, or I want you to go here. And then my friend Rudy was like, hey, I'm in town. I met you in Cincinnati. Let's go to a winery and this and that. And I was like, all right, well, I'll stay another day. And it's a lot of people have strict schedules, I think, but I like to very much keep mine open because I want to have the most full experience that I can so I can teach other people about meeting other people and having an experience like this. Did I answer your question? Yeah, okay. All right, next, what else did you have?
Hi, Briana. I just want to thank you for speaking, and I admire you so much. I have 2 questions. One is, do you think you'll do the Triple Crown? And number 2, do you ever experience, like from the Appalachian Trail or this trail, like a post-trail depression or overstimulation when you're not hiking?
That's so good. I've thought about doing my Triple Crown. I actually would really like to, so I've already completed the Appalachian Trail. And for anybody that doesn't know, the Triple Crown is the Appalachian Trail, the Pacific Crest Trail, and the Continental Divide Trail, all of which the American Discovery Trail crosses over. So I've walked across all of those trails for various amounts of miles. I hiked 300 miles collectively of the Continental Divide Trail and the Colorado Trail this summer. And I think that, yeah, I would like to do my Triple Crown. It's not a goal that I have that I'm trying to do right now, but it's something that definitely I would love to do because I want to hike all the miles. And once you get done with one trail, you're like, okay, what's next? And yet, as far as post-trail depression goes, it's definitely a thing. I've actually been dealing with post-trail depression probably since the time I was talking about earlier when I was in Colorado, and I felt like, what am I doing with this hike, and doesn't mean anything. It's never gone away. I still feel it because I know it's going to be creeping up when I'm finished. And I've just submitted my next article for my newspaper column, and you'll be able to find it online soon. But I talk a lot about how my finish date, where for most people that have been following this hike for so long, have been anticipating this for months and maybe years, and been following me on this hike, and I'm almost done. And they're like, we can't wait for you to finish. We're so excited for you to finish. And don't realize that this day for me is going to be a very sad one. Something that I've known as my home for over 2 years now is coming to a very abrupt end. And once I walk into the ocean, there are no more trail markers. There's no more trail left to walk. Like, what do you do? Now it gets real. Now I have to keep doing, it's not a huge difference because I'm going to keep doing what I've been doing, but I'm more actively pursuing work and more actively pursuing these commitments. But I'm not just like hiking anymore. I'm not just camping out every night. This is like a heartbreak for me. This is like I'm losing a part of my life as I know it. So it's not a happy time for me. The day that I finish this trail, I've had so many people say, I want to come watch you walk into the ocean. I want to come celebrate with you. I want to, from all walks of life. And I'm like, to me, that almost sounds like a nightmare right now, just because for me to deal with that is something, it's not going to be necessarily a happy day for me. I'm not congratulating. I've always known I could do this. I've always known I would do this. But when I knew from the beginning that when I got there, it was going to be sad.
So you hike again.
Or you go back.
Oh, I'll just go back. No, I'm not going back. I move forward, not go back.
All right.
Any scary encounters with wildlife?
Or people.
So as far as wildlife and people are concerned, no, not really, but the scariest encounter I had with wildlife was definitely on the Buckeye Trail in Ohio, and it was not wildlife, it was domesticated dogs. There are a lot of times on the Buckeye Trail in Ohio where the trail actually goes through a lot of countryside roads, and I was actually actively defending myself against domesticated dogs about 5 times a day for about 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So that was the biggest wildlife thing that I've encountered. As far as people are concerned, absolutely not. I've had there's been nobody that has made me feel scared or anything. But on that note, I also want to say that I think it's very important to tell you that it very much depends on how you carry yourself, how you present yourself, how you look to the public, what you're wearing, how you're walking, how fast you're walking, that you know where you're going, smiling at people, talking to people, being outgoing, letting people know that you know what you're doing is going to prevent you from a lot of danger that you could possibly maybe encounter otherwise. So you really have to be on top of your game. You've got to know what you're getting into. But there are not a lot of bad people out there. There really aren't. And the animals that are out there, if you do your research and you learn about what kind of animals you're dealing with, how to deal with them, and what you should do to prevent any encounters, perfect. I've seen mountain lions. I've seen bears. I've seen all kinds of I've seen raccoons that try to get into my tent, and you almost have to punt them like a football to get out of there because they don't care, because people just feed them all the time, and you're like, get out of here, you know, and they're like, man, it's really bad, yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Hi. So it sounds like you were fortunate enough to benefit from a lot of the kindness of strangers and friends of friends, but I'm curious if there is any community around the trail, like trail angels or people that live along the trail who are organized and know what you're doing, and just curious about that. I'm also curious if you ran into anyone else who is hiking the other way or doing the same thing you were doing.
So that's really great. There are a lot of people that, as much as there are people that don't know about this trail, there are people that do. And if they don't necessarily, they might be living along the trail and they are hikers or whatever. But I've been fortunate to meet so many people that are willing to help support that. Like, I know people from, like, my friend Nikki Allen. She works she does a lot of services for the Buckeye Trail, and as also Byron Guy, he's the Utah coordinator of the American Discovery Trail, but also works with the Buckeye Trail in Ohio. So like, these people already know about the trail. They're willing to help. And as far as like, there are so many people that you meet that don't know about the trail that are also willing to help out. And your other part of the question was?
If you met anyone else doing that.
So I met Bernie. I met Bernie. He was hiking. Bernie's from California. He was hiking from California. He was hiking eastbound, so in the opposite direction. Oddly enough, I met Bernie in Kinsley, Kansas, where it is I don't even know how you say this right. It's like the concentrifugal or whatever halfway point of the United States. So from there to San Francisco, from there to the East Coast, it was like the same amount of miles. And I ended up meeting him. I was walking down the road. I knew I was getting close to him, and we're going in opposite directions. And I was in Kansas, and I actually just ran into the last of the soybeans. They were finally coming to fruition, and I was ready to pick some soybeans and eat them. And I found out.
From the road.
Yeah, off the road. And there were no more. I was in contact with Bernie. I knew he was coming my way, and I was like, "Guess what, dude? I just found these farmers that are letting me stay at their pond tonight." I ran into them on the road, and they're like, "Hey, what's going on? What are you doing? Do you need a ride?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "I'm just walking across America." And they're like, "All right, well, hey, that's crazy. Do you want a beer?" And I was like, "Well, I'll take one of those." And then we just had like a little tailgate party, and then the brothers showed up, and it was like Daryl and Tom, and these guys are the best. So they let me stay at their pond, and it was over, I think it was like Labor Day weekend or something, or Memorial Day, Labor Day, whatever. It was super hot in Kansas. So I met Bernie, who was coming the opposite way. It was just so cool that we met in like the middle of America. And we camped out at this place, and I said, "Yeah, these guys said that I can meet." And like, I met up with all the guys, and I told the guys, they're all these farm boys that came out. They were shooting turtle doves, going to some turtle dove cookout, and they were like literally shooting the turtle doves, headed to the cookout. I was like, fresh. So then they like brought us like a bunch of food and stuff, and they're like, "Yeah, just stay here at the pond. There's a picnic table." It was like half submerged in the water, so we drug it out. Bernie came walking up from way down the road, and I said to these guys, I was like, "Hey, I want you guys to yell, 'Bernie!'" And so I was like, "Bernie!" And then you can see Bernie coming up, and he's like, "Yeah!" So yeah, I met Bernie. I met this other guy named Dave Weber. He was hiking across. That was the guy that I met. Oh, I didn't tell you guys this yet. I was walking through southern Illinois, and it was like wicked hot. It was so buggy, and it was so muddy. And all of a sudden I hear this guy say, "You guys ready to put the beeps on this?" Beep, 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 and beep, beep. And I was like, oh, he's mad. And like, this is swear words. So I come up on this guy and he's like sitting in the mud. His name's Dave Weber. He just slipped and fell on some horse poop. And he was all mad. And he was trying to hike across America from his hometown, which is like, he was starting from like somewhere in Illinois. So he was just doing from Illinois to, I don't know where he was going, but I met him and talked to him for a while, and it was just really cool. I was like, wow, really? Like, you're actually hiking? You know about this trail? He's like, yeah. And I think he ended up getting off trail a couple weeks later, but I mean, it was cool to meet him. Like, it was just great to hear somebody yelling obscenities down the trail, and I was like, this is someone who could speak my language.
All right, well, on behalf of everyone from the Adventurers Club, thank you so much for joining us, and we all wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much
with the rest
for having
of your
me.
trip.
I appreciate everything. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for you.
Thank you everyone for being here. And for the folks at home, if you liked what you saw tonight, please consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video. It helps us out a ton. And if you're in LA, why not come on down? We do this every single Thursday, and you can ask your questions and meet our amazing speakers from our live audience. That's going to do it for us here at the Adventurers Club. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time off the beaten path. Good night.
Thank you, guys.